I never expected love to tear my kingdom apart. As the crown weighs heavy on my head, I must choose between my duty and the love that sets my soul on fire. But with rebellion brewing, tradition demanding my silence, and enemies closing in, will I be forced to surrender everything I hold dear? Or will I fight for a future that's mine to claim? The battle has only just begun. Before we dive into this powerful story, let us know where you're tuning in from, and if you find it compelling, don't forget to hit subscribe. The weight of the crown is heavier tonight. The gold band that rests upon my brow feels like a shackle more than a symbol of power, pressing down on my temples, sinking deeper into my skull with every thought. The throne room is quiet, save for the distant murmur of my advisors, but here, in my chambers, I am alone. The silence is my only companion, but it offers no solace. I can hear my queen's voice in my mind, as clear as if she were standing beside me now. The kingdom requires an heir, Adebayo. Her words echo through the cold stone walls. I wish it were that simple. I wish I could give her the child she desires, to secure a future with the same efficiency I run this kingdom. But my mind is elsewhere, consumed by thoughts of a man, a king, who has no place in my life, and yet occupies every corner of my thoughts. King Nuru. I close my eyes and lean back in my chair, feeling the weight of the day's politics still heavy on my shoulders. The disputes over land, the tensions with neighboring kingdoms, all feel meaningless when I think of him. His dark eyes, his confident but gentle smile, the way he holds himself with grace and authority, yet seems utterly vulnerable when our gazes meet. How did we get here? How did I fall so deeply, so completely for a man whose kingdom could destroy mine? Our first meeting was at a summit, one of those diplomatic events that usually bore me to tears. But when I saw him across the room, something shifted in me. It wasn't love at first sight. No, it was something more dangerous, something that caught me off guard. It was a recognition, a pull that I couldn't ignore. There was a fire in his eyes that matched my own, a quiet strength that drew me in like a moth to a flame. We spoke for hours that day, exchanging pleasantries, discussing treaties, yet I could hear none of the words. All I could hear was the beating of my heart, fast and erratic, every time our hands brushed, every time our eyes locked. By the end of the night, the deal had been struck, but the real exchange had already taken place, something far more dangerous than any alliance could offer. In the days that followed, I would see him again, in secret, in the shadows of my palace. What began as stolen glances and brief touches became moments that I could never undo. In his arms, I am not a king, not a ruler burdened with the weight of his kingdom. I am simply Adebayo, a man who longs for something more than power, something real, something pure. But every time we meet, every moment we share, I am reminded of the terrible cost of this love. The kingdom expects me to marry Queen Amara, to secure the throne with an heir. She is beautiful, loyal, and has been a steady presence in my life, but she does not know me. Not the real me. She does not see the man behind the crown, the man who feels trapped by his own duties. A soft knock on the door pulls me from my reverie. Your Majesty, comes the voice of my attendant, the council awaits your presence. I sigh and push myself up from the chair. Duty calls, and once again, I must put on the mask of the king. But tonight, as I walk toward the door, I know it's only a matter of time before I see him again. And each time we meet, the weight of this secret grows heavier. I should have known better than to let myself be swept away. Love is a luxury a king cannot afford, not when his kingdom teeters on the edge of war and diplomacy demands every ounce of his attention. But I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop the way my heart raced when I saw Nuru again, and it wasn't just his presence that set my blood on fire. No, it was the unspoken words between us, the understanding we shared in the quiet moments when no one else was looking. The sound of the heavy wooden doors closing behind me pulls me from my reverie. My advisors are already seated around the grand table, waiting for my attention. They stand as I enter, each face a mask of formality, each pair of eyes trained on me, their king. But none of their gazes feel as sharp as the one I have memorized. Nuru's eyes. Your Majesty, we must discuss the borders with Kadesha, Lord Oken says, interrupting my thoughts. The tensions between our kingdoms have escalated, and we must take action before things spiral out of control. I nod absently, already knowing the conversation will lead to nothing but more demands, more negotiations, more pressure to keep a hold on the kingdom's fragile peace. I should be paying attention, but instead, I find myself thinking of Nuru again. I clear my throat, trying to shake the image of his face from my mind. Yes, of course. Prepare the necessary delegations for the summit. I'll be ready to discuss our terms. I see the confusion in Lord Okan's eyes as he nods, but I pay him no mind. The council is well aware of my usual commitment to diplomacy, but they don't know the real reason my thoughts are elsewhere. They don't know of the secret meetings, the whispered words between Nuru and me, or the warmth of his touch that lingers in my memory even after he's gone. They don't know that when I meet with him, it isn't just to discuss alliances or treaties. It's to be close to him, to feel the connection we share, a connection I can't explain, but one that feels deeper than any alliance between nations. As the meeting continues, my mind drifts once again to Nuru, to that first night we shared, when the politics fell away, and all that mattered was the space between us, the electricity in the air. I remember how he looked at me then, as if I were the only man in the room, the only man who mattered. And I remember the way he kissed me, softly at first, hesitant even. But as the moments passed, as the world outside the room seemed to fade, it became something else. It became urgent, desperate even, a hunger neither of us could deny. But I can't have that. Not in this life. Not with the responsibilities that come with being king. Duty calls, and it always will. Your Majesty? Lord Okan's voice breaks through my thoughts again. This time, I focus, turning my attention to him. The delegation to Kadesha needs your signature before we proceed. I nod sharply, picking up the scroll and scrawling my signature at the bottom. I don't bother reading the details. They are irrelevant. The deal with Kadesha has already been decided, and what matters now is how I'll navigate the coming storm, both the political one and the one that rages inside me. As I sign the last document, a soft knock sounds at the door. I frown, my heart skipping a beat. Who could it be? I've made no plans for visitors tonight. But as I glance toward the door, my pulse quickens. Your Majesty, comes the soft voice of my attendant. King Nuru has arrived. My breath catches in my throat. He is here. In my kingdom, under my roof, and I feel both joy and dread in equal measure. Show him in, I say, my voice betraying no hint of the turmoil swirling inside me. Nuru steps into the room, and I see him as though for the first time. The regal poise he carries, the confident yet gentle way he moves, like a lion in the midst of a field of prey. His eyes meet mine, and for a brief moment I feel the ground beneath me shift. There is no place for this, for us, not in this world. And yet, when his lips curl into that smile, that perfect smile that has haunted my dreams, all logic slips away. King Adebayo, Nuru says, his voice a low, rich melody that seems to resonate in my bones. It is good to see you again. The others in the room have stood as he entered, and they bow respectfully, but I do not take my eyes off him. And you, Nuru. It has been too long. There is a charged silence between us, a tension that no one else in the room seems to notice. It is only the two of us here, in this moment, as though the world outside has faded away. I wonder if he feels it too, the pull that I can't seem to escape. We have much to discuss, Nuru continues, and the words are a reminder of the duty that I cannot forget, no matter how much I wish I could. The borders are more volatile than ever, and we must present a united front. For the sake of our kingdoms. I nod, trying to push my feelings aside. Of course. But our talks will not end with mere borders, Nuru. There is more at stake here than just land. We must decide the future of our people. Indeed, he replies, and I see the flicker of something else in his gaze, the same longing I feel, though he hides it well. But for now, we must focus. For now, we must talk. The night drags on longer than it should. After hours of political discourse, I feel like I am suffocating in the heavy atmosphere of duty. Nuru and I have spent the evening talking strategies, aligning our forces for the impending battles on our borders. The formalities, the plans, the alliances, they all feel so distant now. What should be our greatest concern is instead nothing more than a backdrop for something more powerful. Nuru's presence lingers in the air long after the advisors leave the room. The silence between us is charged, filled with the things we dare not say aloud. There is something in the way he looks at me, a longing beneath his calm exterior that mirrors my own. But even as I feel that pull, that undeniable desire to cross the line we've so carefully built between us, I know I can't. You seem distracted. Nuru's voice cuts through my thoughts. His words are gentle, but I hear the edge of concern. I reply, my voice quieter than I intend. The weight of the kingdom, it never lifts. Nuru steps closer, his movements graceful, each step calculated, but there's a fire in his eyes that speaks volumes. A king carries many burdens, but not all burdens are meant to be carried alone. I want to reach out to him, to close the distance and feel his strength beside me, to taste the promises in his eyes. But I hold myself back. Duty, my kingdom, my marriage, they all pull me in opposite directions, and I feel myself being torn apart. I have my queen, I say, though the words taste bitter on my tongue. She is loyal, and our alliance is vital to the survival of the kingdom. Nuru doesn't flinch, but I can see the flicker of disappointment in his gaze. Loyalty is important, he agrees softly. But loyalty should never come at the cost of love. His words cut deeper than I want to admit. It's not just the longing in his voice, or the way he looks at me with that mixture of understanding and sadness. It's the truth in his words. I have been living a lie, wrapped in the safety of duty and responsibility, but never fully honest with myself. What do you want from me, Nuru? I ask, turning to face him fully now, the frustration clear in my voice. We are two kings, bound by duty. Nothing more. Nuru stands just a breath away, his presence overwhelming, his eyes dark and full of emotions he doesn't dare speak. He's always been the more controlled of us, but even he cannot hide the heat between us. I want you, he says simply, his voice barely above a whisper. Not just the man who rules a kingdom. I want the man who feels what I feel. There it is, the confession I've been avoiding, the desire I've pushed to the back of my mind. But the truth hangs in the air now, and it can no longer be ignored. I turn away from him, unable to meet his gaze. If I do, I will give in. If I do, everything I've worked for will crumble. I can't, I say, my voice strained, though I don't know if I'm talking to him or to myself. The kingdom needs me. The people depend on me. And I need you, Nuru replies, his voice filled with the same urgency, the same unspoken plea. I have never wanted anyone more than I want you, Adebayo. But I will not beg you. I will wait for you, as long as it takes. His words hit me like a storm. I've never known someone who could speak so plainly, so boldly, without fear of the consequences. In that moment, I know he means every word. I look at him, finally meeting his gaze. There is no longer any pretense between us. No more games. You do not understand, I murmur. This is not just about us. If this goes wrong, if this gets out. I do understand, he interrupts gently. I understand that we cannot continue pretending forever. The world will change, Adebayo. Whether we are ready or not. I swallow hard, his words landing like a heavy stone in my chest. He's right. Every moment we spend in this dance is one step closer to destruction or liberation. I'm not sure which. The room feels smaller now, the air heavier. Every part of me wants to reach out, to give in, to finally kiss him and feel the weight of the world fall away. But the consequences are too great. I know that. I need time, I say, my voice hoarse with the weight of what I'm saying. Nuru nods, understanding more than I can express. But as he turns to leave, I can't help the pang of regret that pierces me. I want to call him back, to pull him into my arms and tell him everything I feel, to stop pretending. But I don't. He pauses at the door, his hand resting on the frame, his back to me. I will wait, Adebayo, he says softly. And when you're ready, you'll know where to find me. The door closes behind him, leaving me alone with the sound of my heartbeat, faster now, filled with the pull of something I can no longer deny. The future has already started shifting, and I don't know if I'm ready to face it. But for the first time, I wonder if I ever will be. The day drags on, the weight of it unbearable. I've spent hours in meetings, signing treaties, and overseeing the affairs of my kingdom, but all I can think about is Nuru. His words haunt me. I will wait for you, Adebayo. And though I've convinced myself that this is nothing more than a fleeting emotion, something temporary that will fade in time, deep down, I know I am lying to myself. Tonight, the palace is quieter than usual. The servants are dismissed early, and the corridors are empty, save for the occasional guard on patrol. The moonlight filters through the tall windows, casting soft shadows on the stone floors. My thoughts are consumed by the idea of Nuru, his presence, his touch, his eyes. I stand at the window of my chambers, staring into the vast expanse of the land I've sworn to protect, the land that I am slowly losing to the fire that burns inside me. The weight of the crown feels heavier than it ever has, suffocating me, as though it knows I'm already slipping, already faltering. A soft knock on the door pulls me from my thoughts. It is not my attendant this time. No, it is him. Enter, I say, my voice barely above a whisper. The door opens and Nuru steps in, his presence filling the room like a breath of fresh air. There is no one else here tonight. No advisors, no spies, just the two of us. For a moment, neither of us speaks. We simply stand there, two kings, each carrying the weight of our kingdoms and our hearts, the space between us filled with everything unsaid. I've come to speak with you, Nuru says, his voice low, but not without a certain edge. He steps closer, his dark eyes never leaving mine. But also because I cannot stay away. I swallow, my heart racing as his words settle in the air between us. He's not here just for diplomacy, not anymore. No, he's here because of what we've become, what we are becoming. I've told you before, Nuru, I begin, my voice hoarse. I cannot risk this. I cannot risk my kingdom, my throne, for something forbidden. He takes a step closer, his presence overwhelming. And I've told you, Adebayo, that I would wait for you. No matter how long it takes. But I cannot wait forever. His words are a challenge, but they are not harsh. There is a softness in them, an urgency that I can't ignore. And though I try to hold myself back, to remind myself of the duties I must uphold, my body betrays me. I am not just a king, Nuru says, his voice a whisper now. He is inches away from me, so close I can feel the heat of his body against mine. I am a man who has never wanted anything more than I want you, Adebayo. His hand comes to rest lightly on my arm, his touch gentle but possessive, as though he is claiming me without words. My heart races, and I feel my breath catch in my throat. This is dangerous. This is a line I should never cross. But the temptation is too strong. His touch ignites something inside me that I cannot control. I step back, my heart pounding in my chest. This is wrong, Nuru. We cannot do this. But his fingers curl around my wrist, pulling me back toward him. His lips brush against my ear, sending a wave of shivers down my spine. Tell me you don't feel it, he murmurs, his voice thick with desire. Tell me you don't want this. I open my mouth to speak, but the words die on my tongue. He's right. I feel it too. The ache, the longing, the hunger. But I am a king and this cannot happen. Not like this. Nuru steps back slightly, his eyes searching mine. I will wait, Adebayo. But don't make me wait forever. I feel the heat of his gaze on me as he turns to leave, but before he can reach the door, I move, my legs carrying me forward without thought. In an instant, I have him by the arm, pulling him back toward me. The moment I touch him, all of the restraint I've been holding onto slips away. Without thinking, I pull him into a kiss. It's like nothing I've ever felt before. The world disappears as our lips meet. There are no treaties, no alliances, no obligations, only the rush of desire that overwhelms me. His hands find their way to my back, pulling me closer, his body flush against mine. I can feel the strength in him, the power, but also the vulnerability, as though he, too, has been holding back. I don't know how long we stand there, kissing, tasting, touching, all the while trying to make sense of the madness that has consumed us both. But eventually, reality returns, and I pull away, breathless, my mind racing with guilt and fear. I can't do this, I say, the words barely a whisper. I can't. But Nuru's eyes are soft, understanding. You already have. And just like that, the wall I've built up over the years crumbles. I've kissed him. I've crossed the line. And now there is no turning back. The kiss still lingers on my lips, like an unspoken promise, an invitation I never intended to accept. My thoughts are scattered, disjointed, and I can't quite pull myself back into the rational world. The kingdom, the political alliances, the expectations placed on me, they all seem distant now, as though they belong to someone else entirely. I stand in my chambers, my fingers still tingling from the brief touch of Nuru's skin. His warmth, the weight of his body pressing into mine, is burned into my memory. I can't seem to shake it. But the guilt, the fear, and the knowledge that this could tear apart everything I've built for my people crashed down on me. I pace restlessly across the room, my heart beating erratically, the tension thick in the air. What have I done? I've crossed a line that I can never uncross. The weight of my crown feels heavier than ever, as though it's pressing down on me with the full force of my responsibilities. This was a mistake. It has to be. But even as I try to convince myself of that, my mind drifts back to Nuru's face, the way he looked at me with those eyes full of yearning. He is the one person who sees past the king I am, to the man I've tried to bury beneath the throne. And for the first time in a long while, I don't want to hide. I don't want to be this king, this symbol of power, this cold ruler who can't love. But I don't know how to change it. I don't know how to be something else, something that's not just a reflection of the kingdom's needs, of the duty I've sworn to uphold. A soft knock on the door pulls me from my spiraling thoughts. My heart stops in my chest. It's him. I know it before I even call out. Come in, I say, my voice sounding far steadier than I feel. The door opens and there he is. Nuru. Tall, strong, and full of purpose. He doesn't hesitate as he enters, his eyes meeting mine with the same intensity as when we last parted. I can see the unspoken questions in his gaze, the yearning that I'm too afraid to acknowledge. He doesn't say anything at first. He doesn't need to. His presence speaks volumes. He's here and he's waiting. Waiting for me to make a choice. I've been thinking, I begin, my words coming out slower than I want them to. What we did, it wasn't just a kiss. It was everything. Nuru steps forward, his voice low, but unwavering. He agrees. And I'm not sorry for it. I feel a pang of guilt. But I confess, my voice cracking. I've jeopardized everything for a moment of weakness. The throne. My kingdom. My queen. Your queen, Nuru interrupts, his voice firm. Is not your heart. She never has been. You wear the crown, but you are not just a king. You are a man, Adebayo. The words sting, but they're true. The truth always stings. I can't choose between duty and you, I admit, the weight of the words finally sinking in. I can't have both. You don't have to, Nuru says softly, taking a step closer, his voice full of empathy. But you do have to choose. And that choice is yours, Adebayo. You've always had the power to choose. The question is, will you finally make it? I feel a lump form in my throat. He's right. For all my talk of responsibility, of the kingdom, of the weight of the crown, I've never really made a choice for myself. I've let others choose for me, let duty and tradition dictate my every move. But now, in the quiet of my chambers, with Nuru standing before me, I am faced with a choice that no one can make for me. I close my eyes, trying to steady the storm raging inside me. I can't escape this feeling. I've tried. But the pull to Nuru is undeniable. He's not just a man to me. He's everything I've been missing. The love I've never allowed myself to feel. The fire that burns through my soul, burning away the walls I've built. I'm afraid, I whisper, the words barely escaping my lips. Afraid of what this will mean. For us. For the kingdom. Nuru places his hand gently on my shoulder, his touch steady, calming. I know you are, he says, his voice soft but unyielding. But fear is no reason to live a life that isn't your own. I open my eyes to meet his gaze. There's no hesitation there. No doubt. Only certainty. I will stand by you, Adebayo, he continues, in whatever decision you make. But you must decide, and you must decide now. The silence between us stretches, but I don't break it. I know this moment is pivotal. It will change everything. I've spent so long hiding, pushing away my feelings, trying to convince myself that duty comes first. But now, in this room, with Nuru standing before me, I realize that duty cannot fulfill the ache in my heart. I choose you, I say, finally, my voice steady, though it trembles inside. Nuru's expression softens, his eyes full of relief and joy. Then let's walk this path together, Adebayo. For the first time in my life, I feel a sense of peace. The choice has been made, and though the future is uncertain, I know that, at least for now, I am not alone. The road ahead is fraught with challenges, but I will face them with Nuru by my side. The weight of the decision I've made settles heavily on my chest, even though the words I spoke to Nuru echo in my mind like a sweet refrain. I choose you. It felt like a promise, a bond forged in the heat of passion and undeniable connection. But as the days pass, the magnitude of what I've done looms ever larger, casting a shadow over my every move. The kingdom is not kind to those who deviate from tradition. I know this well. Every action I take, every decision I make, will be scrutinized, weighed, and judged. And now, with Nuru by my side, not just as an ally or advisor, but as someone who shares my heart, I can't help but wonder how much longer we can keep this secret. We haven't spoken openly about it in the daylight. It's dangerous, and we both know it. I see him in the corners of the palace, his eyes following mine when no one is looking, a silent understanding passing between us. But when the council meets, when the royal family gathers, we're just two men doing their jobs. No one can know the truth. Not yet. Tonight, I stand in the royal gardens, my hands clenched at my sides. The air is cool, and the sound of the night insects fills the silence around me. There's a sense of calm here, but also an undeniable tension, as if the very earth beneath my feet knows what I've done. Adebayo, Nuru's voice cuts through the quiet, soft but commanding. I turn, and there he is, standing at the edge of the garden, his eyes fixed on me with a look that speaks volumes. I've been thinking, he begins, taking a step closer. About what you said. About us. I know, I reply, my voice heavy. But it's not just about us anymore, Nuru. It's about everything. My people, my duty, my throne. Nuru reaches out, his hand brushing gently against mine. The touch is grounding, comforting, but it only serves to remind me of the storm brewing inside me. I've made my choice, but the world hasn't changed. My kingdom is still out there, waiting for me to lead it. You don't have to choose between me and your kingdom, Nuru says, his voice steady. I would never ask you to. But you must make your peace with it, with who you are and what you want. I don't know if I can, I admit, my voice breaking. I don't know if I can live up to the expectations placed on me. I can barely live with myself. Don't, Nuru responds, his grip tightening on my hand. Don't make this about what you can't do. You're a king. You've led your people for years. But this, he adds, his gaze softening, this is about what you deserve. What we deserve. His words are like a balm to my wounded soul. He's right, I know. But the fear is still there, clawing at my chest. The fear of being found out, the fear of what will happen to us, to me. I can't be selfish. I can't allow myself to be the man I want to be if it means losing everything I've worked for. The sound of footsteps approaching makes both of us freeze. I glance around, my heart racing. A figure emerges from the shadows, and I recognize the familiar silhouette, my cousin, Prince Ao. His face is hard, his expression unreadable. Adebayo, he says, his tone cool but tinged with something I can't quite place. Nuru. I nod stiffly, but Nuru's hand tightens in mine, a subtle signal that he recognizes the tension as well. I didn't mean to intrude, Ao continues, his eyes flicking between us, sharp and calculating. But there's something you need to know. I feel a chill crawl up my spine. Ao is no fool. He's been watching me for a while, I'm sure of it. He knows something is different. What is it? I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. Ao looks between Nuru and me again, his gaze lingering a moment longer than usual. There's something in his eyes, suspicion, maybe. But he doesn't say it outright. Instead, he says, "The people are talking." Whispers. "About your alliances." My heart skips a beat. The truth is, there are always rumors in the palace. Always eyes watching. Always someone ready to use what they know to their advantage. The people, I echo, my mind racing. What are they saying? They're asking questions, Ao replies, stepping closer. About your loyalty. About what drives you. It's not just the council anymore. They're worried. They see you making decisions that don't align with what they expect. I glance at Nuru, who stands quietly beside me, his eyes dark with concern. Ao's words strike a nerve. The very thing I've feared is starting to come true. The rumors are already swirling. You're concerned. Nuru speaks up, his voice steady. But are you worried for Adebayo or for yourself? Ao's expression hardens, but he doesn't respond immediately. His eyes shift between us as if calculating the weight of his next words. I'm worried for the kingdom, he finally says, his tone cold. You've always put your people first, cousin. But now I'm a man, I interrupt, my voice low but firm. And I will make the decisions I think are best. Ao looks taken aback for a moment, then nods slowly, though his eyes remain wary. We'll see about that, he says quietly, before turning and walking away. As the footsteps fade into the distance, I feel the tension in the air shift, but the uncertainty remains. This conversation with Ao has only solidified what I already knew. The kingdom is watching. And soon, I won't be able to hide what is growing between me and Nuru. You were right, I whisper to Nuru. We can't keep this a secret much longer. He turns to face me, his expression resolute. Then we'll face it together. Whatever comes next. And for the first time, I feel a sense of purpose, a clarity that I haven't had in years. The weight of the crown no longer feels like a burden. With Nuru by my side, perhaps I can do more than just survive this life. Maybe I can truly live it. The tension in the palace is palpable, thicker than the humid heat that lingers in the air. Each passing day seems to carry with it a sense of impending doom, like a storm gathering in the distance. The whispers have already started, in the courtyards, in the council chambers, and in the shadows of the royal halls. The rumors are spreading faster than I can control them, and with every new conversation, my heart sinks a little further. I stand before the grand mirror in my chambers, adjusting the regal attire that once made me feel powerful. Now it feels suffocating, as though the weight of it is pulling me down. I run a hand through my hair, staring at my reflection, trying to reconcile the man I see before me with the man I've become in my heart. The king I've always been is still here, but he's no longer the same. A knock on the door breaks my reverie, and I straighten up. Come in, I call, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. The door opens, revealing Nuru. His presence always brings a sense of calm, but today, the usual peace is nowhere to be found in his eyes. There's something in his gaze, an unease that mirrors my own. I've been hearing the whispers, Nuru says, stepping inside and closing the door behind him. His voice is low but sharp. The council is becoming suspicious. I meet his gaze, my stomach tightening. It's inevitable, I admit. I've known this would happen. People are beginning to notice. They'll start asking questions. And when they do, we won't be able to hide anymore. Nuru walks closer, his steps deliberate, his expressions serious. We need to be prepared. There are those who would use this against us, Adebayo. Your enemies are watching, waiting for you to make a mistake. I clench my fists at my sides. Nuru's words strike a nerve, but they're the truth. The kingdom is a delicate web of alliances, power struggles, and rivalries, and the moment someone sees an opportunity, they will strike. I've seen it too many times. Betrayal is a currency here. And the closer I get to Nuru, the more vulnerable I become. We can't hide anymore, I murmur, my voice a mixture of fear and resolve. I have to face them, my family, my council. They'll demand answers. And I can't afford to lose their trust. Nuru steps forward, placing a hand on my shoulder. Adebayo, no matter what happens, you don't have to do this alone. We face this together as we always have. His touch, though reassuring, doesn't quiet the storm brewing in my chest. His words are a balm, but they can't shield me from the reality of the situation. I'm the king. The moment my personal life becomes a matter of public concern, I risk losing everything. The loyalty of my people, my standing in the kingdom, the very foundation of my reign. I'll speak to the council tomorrow, I say, the decision firming in my mind. It's time they knew the truth. I will not allow them to control my life anymore. Nuru's eyes soften, but his face remains serious. You'll have to be careful, Adebayo. Some of them will use your love against you. They will see it as a weakness, something to exploit. I know, I reply quietly. But I can't keep pretending. The longer I wait, the more dangerous it becomes. The silence that follows is heavy. We both understand the consequences of my decision, but there's no turning back now. The truth must come out, even if it costs me everything I've worked for. Suddenly, the door swings open, and I turn sharply, my heart leaping in my chest. My cousin, Prince Ao, steps into the room, his expression unreadable. I need to speak with you, Adebayo, Ao says, his voice flat, though I can hear the tension underneath. His gaze flicks briefly to Nuru, then back to me. In private. Nuru's jaw tightens, and I can see the conflict in his eyes. But he nods, taking a step back. I'll be in the hall if you need me. As Nuru exits, Ao approaches, his eyes cold and calculating. I know what's going on, cousin, he says, his tone low. The council knows too. And they're starting to question your loyalty. I feel a chill creep up my spine at the mention of the council. It's not just the council, it's the entire kingdom. My every move is being watched, and they're beginning to notice that something is different. That I am different. You're playing a dangerous game, Ao continues, his eyes narrowing. And the longer you hide it, the more vulnerable you make yourself. You think they'll accept you for this? For your choices? I swallow, my throat dry. I don't care what they think, I reply, my voice more certain than I feel. This is my kingdom. I am their king, and I will rule it as I see fit. Ao smirks, but there's no humor in it. That's what you believe, isn't it? But the reality is, Adebayo, your people won't accept this. They won't accept you. The words sting, but I refuse to let them show. I stand tall, my chin lifted. I don't need their acceptance. I've done my duty for years. I deserve to live my life as I choose. Ao laughs, a bitter sound that fills the room. We'll see how long you last, cousin. When the truth comes out, the kingdom will turn on you. And when that happens, don't come running to me. I feel the weight of his words, but I refuse to let him see the doubt creeping into my mind. Ao has always been a threat, a rival who has never been afraid to use my weaknesses against me. And now, with the truth of my feelings for Nuru hanging in the balance, I can feel the noose tightening around my neck. You don't scare me, I say, my voice steady. I will face whatever comes. And I will face it with Nuru by my side. Ao studies me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. We'll see, he says at last, before turning and walking out of the room. As the door clicks shut behind him, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. The storm is coming. And I don't know if I'll be able to weather it. But I'll face it, just as I've faced everything else in my life, head on. The morning sun rises over the kingdom, casting a golden glow over the palace walls, but I feel no warmth. As I walk through the grand corridors of the palace, the weight of my crown presses heavily on my shoulders, a constant reminder of the duty that has always been my burden. Today, however, the burden is greater than usual. The council meeting awaits, and with it, the storm I can no longer avoid. I pause before the door to the council chamber, my hand resting on the cool wood, the silence within a stark contrast to the growing chaos in my mind. The faces of my council, the ministers, advisors, and generals, all of them will be there, waiting for me. They expect leadership, strength, and unwavering resolve. They expect the king I have always been. But they won't get that today. Nuru's face flashes in my mind, his steady presence offering a silent comfort. I wish I could take him with me, wish I could declare to them all that I have chosen my heart over the throne. But I can't. Not yet. And perhaps, I wonder, will I ever be able to? I open the door and step inside, my footsteps echoing in the large, imposing room. The council stands as one, bowing their heads in respect. I give a shallow nod in return, my mind focused on the task at hand. Today, I will either secure my kingdom's future, or I will watch it crumble. Your Majesty, begins Minister Alumide, his voice full of the usual reverence. But beneath it, I detect something else, a note of unease, a caution I haven't heard before. We've gathered to discuss matters of the kingdom's stability and your recent actions. The words hang in the air like smoke. I feel the eyes of the council on me, each one a silent accusation. They know, or at least suspect, what has been happening. They've seen the way Nuru and I interact, the quiet exchanges, the shared glances. They've seen too much. They know the whispers of the court have turned into murmurs of concern. I've heard the rumors, I begin, my voice steady but hard. I know what you think. I know what you're all saying behind my back. I glance around the table, meeting each of their eyes in turn. But I will not cower from what is true. I will not deny who I am, or the man I have chosen to stand beside me. There is a heavy silence. I feel their judgment, the unspoken questions weighing heavily on my chest. Prince Ao, my cousin, is the first to speak. Your Majesty, he says, his voice thin with the veneer of respect but thick with disdain. We cannot ignore the consequences of your actions. This is not just about your personal life. This is about the kingdom's future. Your relationship with Nuru, while he pauses as if the words taste bitter in his mouth, understandable, does not align with our traditions. It does not align with our people's expectations. I hold his gaze, my heart pounding. Ao's eyes are cold, calculating. I know him too well. He is no ally. I understand the implications, I say, my voice firm. But I will not be ruled by fear. I will not let this kingdom dictate how I live my life. This is my choice, and the kingdom's future depends not on the preferences of a few, but on the strength of its people. The council murmurs, but Ao interrupts, his voice rising. Your strength is not in your desires, cousin. Your strength is in your ability to lead, to unite the people. If they see you as weak, divided by your own choices, what hope do we have? I know what he's doing. He's trying to push me, trying to make me doubt myself, to make me question everything I've worked for. He's playing on my insecurities, using the kingdom's expectations as a weapon. I have led this kingdom for years, I reply, my voice low but unwavering. And I will continue to lead it. The people will follow a king who stands by his convictions. They will follow strength, not weakness. But even as I say the words, doubt lingers in my heart. The council is right in one respect. The kingdom is a reflection of its king. If I falter, if I fail to prove myself, the consequences could be disastrous. The people will not follow you if you abandon everything they hold dear. Ao presses, leaning forward in his chair. His words are sharp, biting. Your duty is to them, not to yourself. Your loyalty to this kingdom must come before any personal indulgence. Adebayo, your king. You are bound to this land. But Nuru, he's a part of you, and that can't be ignored. I close my eyes, taking a deep breath, trying to calm the storm raging inside me. The decision I make today will change everything. If I stand my ground, if I choose Nuru, there will be no turning back. The kingdom will never be the same. But if I give in, if I abandon what my heart desires, I'll lose myself. I am the king, I say again, my voice a little stronger now. And I will decide what is best for my people. If you cannot accept that, then perhaps it is not I who have failed, but the kingdom itself. I turn my gaze to the council, and for the first time, I see a flicker of doubt in their eyes. I know they're all thinking about their own positions, their own futures. The truth is, they need me. They need my strength. They need my resolve. If you believe I am unfit to lead, then you are welcome to speak your mind. I continue, my tone a little more commanding. But be aware, I will not bend to pressure. I will not betray myself. I will not be ruled by fear. The room is silent. There is a tension in the air, thick and suffocating. No one speaks, no one moves. I know I have crossed a line. The path ahead is uncertain, but at least now I've made my choice clear. The council has no answer for me. For a long moment, no one says a word. But deep down, I know I've passed a point of no return. I've chosen Nuru, and with that choice, I've made my stand. Whatever comes next, I will face it. Whatever it costs me, I will hold my ground. Finally, Minister Alyamide clears his throat, his voice wavering slightly. Your Majesty, he begins, his tone cautious but respectful, the kingdom's stability is our greatest concern. But perhaps, in time, we will come to understand your choices. For now, we will wait and see. I nod once, firmly. Then we will see what the future holds. The sky above the palace is heavy with clouds, the air thick with an ominous weight. It's as if the heavens themselves are holding their breath, waiting for the storm that's about to break. I stand at the edge of the balcony, looking out over the kingdom I've spent my life building, a kingdom that feels suddenly fragile, like a delicate thread ready to snap. The meeting with the council 2 days ago was just the beginning. Word has spread quickly, and now the streets are alive with rumors and unrest. The people murmur about the king, his choices, his relationship with Nuru. There are whispers of rebellion, of unrest brewing in the shadows. I can feel the weight of it all pressing in on me, tightening around my chest with every breath. Nuru is with me again, standing quietly beside me, his presence a constant anchor. His calm demeanor contrasts sharply with the storm in my heart. We've both known this moment would come, the moment when I would have to choose, not just between duty and love, but between my crown and my soul. The storm is coming, Nuru says quietly, his voice barely more than a whisper, yet I hear it clearly. He doesn't need to elaborate. We both know that the kingdom is on the brink of collapse, and that the choices I make now will either secure my reign or tear everything apart. I know, I reply, my voice tight with tension. But I can't go back. I've made my decision. I will not abandon you, Nuru. Not for this crown. Not for this kingdom. Nuru steps closer, his hand brushing mine in a rare moment of tenderness. It's a quiet touch, but it speaks volumes. I feel the weight of everything we've built together in that touch, and I know that no matter what happens, we will face it together. The council will not let you go easily, Nuru says, his voice tinged with concern. At Abeo, they will fight for their power, for the stability of the kingdom. They will try to break you. I glance at him, my jaw tightening. Let them try, I say, my voice filled with a newfound resolve. If they want to take this crown from me, they'll have to pry it from my cold, dead hands. As the words leave my lips, I realize how true they are. This kingdom may be my birthright, but it will not define me. My love for Nuru, our love, is more important than any throne, any title. I've spent my life building an empire, but now I see it for what it is, a fragile, crumbling thing that will fall if I'm not careful. The only thing that holds true, the only thing worth fighting for, is the love that has blossomed between Nuru and me. But I know, deep down, that this won't be easy. The council has already made their stance clear. They see me as a king who is too willing to sacrifice tradition, too willing to forsake everything they hold dear. And now, the real test begins. Later that day, as I make my way to the throne room, I feel the weight of the world pressing in on me. The hall is lined with guards, and the air is thick with anticipation. The council members are waiting inside, their faces tight with judgment. I can sense their hostility even before I step through the doors. Prince Ao is the first to meet my gaze, his expression cold and calculating. Your Majesty, he says, his voice a mockery of respect. I trust you've come to your senses. I meet his gaze, refusing to flinch. I reply, my voice steady, unwavering. But not in the way you think. Ao's lip curls into a sneer, but he says nothing further. Instead, he steps back, allowing the rest of the council to look at me with disdain. They're all here, the ministers, the generals, the advisors, every one of them who has a stake in the kingdom's future. And they are all waiting for me to fall. Your Majesty, Minister Alyamide speaks up, his voice smooth, carefully measured. We have heard your words. We have heard your defiance. But the kingdom cannot stand divided. You've made a choice, and that choice is one that threatens everything we've worked for. If you choose to keep Nuru by your side, if you choose to defy the kingdom's traditions, there will be consequences. I take a deep breath, feeling the sting of their words, but I do not falter. I understand the consequences, I say, my voice carrying the weight of finality. But I will not let my heart be ruled by fear. This is my kingdom, and I will decide what is best for its future. There is a tense silence as the council exchanges wary glances. I can feel their disapproval, their doubt. But beneath their judgment, I see something else: fear. They're afraid of what this change might mean. They're afraid that if I can be swayed, so too can the kingdom. Your Majesty, General Akinte speaks up, his tone sharp, yet respectful. The people will not accept this. If you continue down this path, there will be unrest. There will be rebellion. You risk everything: your throne, your crown, your very life. I look at the general, meeting his eyes with an intensity that surprises even me. If the people are so easily swayed, then they were never truly loyal to me, I say, my voice firm. A true king leads not by fear, but by conviction. And I will not back down. Ao steps forward again, his face twisted in contempt. Then you leave us no choice, he says, his voice low, dangerous. We will not let this kingdom fall to ruin because of your choices. In that moment, I know. This is it. This is the point of no return. They are forcing my hand, and the kingdom is on the line. I am prepared to risk everything, including my life, for what I believe in. For Nuru. If you are determined to fight against me, I say, my voice low but filled with resolve, then we will fight. But know this: I will not lose. Not to you. Not to anyone. The room falls silent, the tension thick and suffocating. I stand firm, my chest rising and falling with the weight of the decision that I've just made. There is no turning back now. The kingdom will either stand with me, or it will fall. And I am ready to face whatever comes next.